Good afternoon. In our Torah portion this week, we have a very dramatic moment of Moses being up on the mountain, receiving Torah, and the people of Israel down below, waiting for him to come back. And they're getting nervous. They're not trusting. They wonder if they've been abandoned. And they start building the golden calf. Aaron helps them, and they want a focus for their energy, a focus for their worship. And they create an idol. Even though they've had this incredible experience of God, of the infinite, they in some way want to channel that kind of connection instead of to the ultimate, to something fixed and finite. And when God experiences the people doing this, what he says to Moses is really interesting. He tells Moses what they're doing. He says, notice, and he says, I am so angry about it that I will smite them not because they made the calf, but because they are a stiff-necked people. They are a stiff-necked people. His reason for wanting to punish the Israelites for the golden calf is about their stubbornness, their unwillingness to see things differently, to holding on to their way of doing things and their perspective. And that's what God's problem is. And this is a really, this is a problematic thing, because usually what we look at is we focus on behavior. It's behavior that we want to change. It's not necessarily the character of a person. But here God seems to be saying the opposite. Rabbi Natan Tzvi Finkel, one of the great masters of Musar, of a vein of Torah interpretation and life that's about character development, says that it's from here we see that God cares about character, that our own very sense of virtue, how we approach situations, what is inside us, is as important, if not even more important, than behavior, because it's what leads to behavior. And in fact, Maimonides, the Rambam, all 12th century, 13th century rabbi, says in his Sefer HaMitzvot that the commandment that we hear to walk in God's ways from the book of Micah is interpreted as both actions, just as God clothes the naked and so should you, or just as God is with the sick, so should you, and character. Just as God is compassionate, so should you be compassionate. But what's interesting is later in his life, when he writes his Mishnah Torah, he interprets the same verse only to refer to character, only to refer to how we are. And I think part of the reason of this is that we know that if we really are going to change behavior, we need to look down on what is the root. What is the character inside us that leads to that behavior? So, and that's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to change. A lot of the time we just say, I'm this way because I'm wired this way, or that's my personality. And for sure, character is something that is reinforced by habits and behavior, but it can also be changed. And a lot of the work of the Jewish traditions of Musar is really about this, is being able to put daily focus on things that we want to change. For instance, at the beginning of the day, I've written on a little card some of the things that I want to focus on during the day as far as my own character, things that I'm working on, things that don't necessarily come easy to me. And that becomes part of my prayer to reinforce that, to keep that focus. Another practice in Musar is at the end of the day to go over the day and think about our behavior and think about what went on with us, and in a little journal to be able to write down and take a little accounting, or a cheshbon hanefesh, an accounting of the soul, and be able to say, what was going on for me, not to judge our own behavior so much, but to gain a little bit of awareness of how our character leads to behavior and how we might want to change that. So as we approach this Shabbat and think about our own ways that we want to do things differently, I want to offer up the possibility that God cares about our character, and that who we are can be worked on, can be changed. It takes attention, it takes commitment, but with that attention and commitment, we will be successful.